Hello, all my fellow Jeep enthusiasts out on the internet. Today, I'm going to talk about the Westin triple tube rock rail. Now, I've hesitated to make any videos on parts on my Jeep because you guys are going to be like, oh man, that's cool. I'm going to go get that and put it on my Jeep. And then all your Jeeps are going to look like my Jeep. But, you know, I need the money right now, so I'm making this video. When you click on a link below the video or in my blog post, I'll make a couple bucks off of it if you end up buying the rails. So here's my honest review of the Westin triple tube rock rail. You'll see the top of it has a textured stepping platform so that when it's wet you don't slip and fall and break your hips or head or elbows, so that's kind of a nice touch. If I was going to be super picky, I might prefer a more like a grid wire style. Reason being is these tires kick up some rocks. The rocks end up landing on here, and this flat platform creates a path for them to get wedged basically between the body and the rail itself. Think if it was like a mesh grid of some kind, I think more rocks would fall through and not get stuck in that spot. This seems like an appropriate time to talk about this pinch weld right here. You'll notice a black protective piece of steel I have bolted on there. This is made by a company called Hammerhead. It does not come stock with the Westin rock rail, but you can buy it aftermarket at extremeterrain.com. I would say if you're installing this rock rail, just go ahead and throw down the money on that, because it'll help protect your paint and anything here at the spot where a lot of rocks get collected. So yeah, that's that. I had a few basic requirements when shopping for new rock rails for my Jeep. Number one, I wanted better protection than what was offered by the stock guards. Number two, I wanted stepping platform to make it easier to get in and out of. Number three, I didn't want to drill anything in the Jeep. I wanted to use all standard mounting bolts that are already in place. And number four, I wanted to keep it under $1,000. Touching on that, these are actually less than $500, and they just hit all the requirements I need. I really like the look. I like round tubes on my Jeep, so it just kind of makes them look better for me. If you have one of those angry grills, maybe you won't like these as much, but maybe you will. As far as protection goes, you can see I've already dinged them up on some rocks already. I made a mistake. When this happened, I should have covered that up with some paint immediately. Now I'm going to have to sand it down and then apply some paint to avoid any rust in the future. But they've provided really good protection. I know I've read some reviews from people that says, you know, these don't connect to the really big frame and body mounts. So there are options that are more sturdy if you're doing more rugged riding. I don't do anything too crazy. You know, obviously it looks like I scraped some rocks here and there heading out to Red Rock here in Las Vegas. But for the most part, these definitely do everything well for me, and they provide much better protection than the stock ones. As far as installation goes, it was pretty straightforward. You'll see you have a mounting point in the front. It uses the existing frame to body mount there, and then also the same farther down. There's also a U-joint that connects to the frame down towards the rear wheel as well. The install was really pretty straightforward. It took about an hour and a half, and I did it by myself. I used a jack stand to help support some of the weight. Each rail does weigh about 50 pounds each, so it's nice to either have someone to help, or, as I mentioned, a jack stand works totally fine. While we're down here, you can see the light coming through between the rail and the actual body. This is where I mentioned the extremeterrain.com Hammerhead pinch weld protector. You can see that also installs really easily, just all the existing bolts, just a little bit of steel to add in there. Rocks really do collect in that space, so adding that was a huge help. So that's the rundown on the Westin triple tube rock rails. Again, I really like the tube shape. It matches really well with my AEV rear bumper. It kind of looks like they're meant to go together, so it keeps everything really consistent looking. They provide great protection. They're less than 500 bucks. You don't slip on them, and the install was pretty easy. The downsides that people mention are there are stronger mounting points available on the frame that they could be mounted to. So if you're doing really heavy rock crawling and planning to use them a lot for protection, maybe the diehard people say you need something a little sturdier. The other negative is there's sometimes creaking in the first couple weeks after install. You'll want to retorque all of your connections, and that resolved it in every case that I've read of anyone that's had the issue. And it does leave, as stock, it leaves exposed some space between the rails themselves and your pinch seam, so you'll want to pick up this extra protection before you do the install. You can do it afterwards as well. That's what happened to me. I installed the rails, I was all stoked, got it all done, went out for a trail ride, and then I had about 5 or 6 rocks wedged between the body and the rock rails themselves, and I was like, oh, it looks like I should have done that. I also had creaking when I installed mine, so it worked out really well. I purchased the protection for the seam, then I unbolted everything and just kind of dropped the rock rails down a little bit without removing them. I was able to install the pinch seam protection, and then when I retorqued my rock rails, all the creaking went away. So it kind of solved all my problems. I've been running these for 2 years, and I'm totally happy. So without reservations, I recommend.